Welcome everyone and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most unbelievable and fascinating discoveries in the world of rare coins, a story that blends mystery, history, unexpected minting flaws, and the incredible possibility that a simple piece of pocket change hiding in someone's old drawer or inherited stash could be worth a life-changing fortune. Because today we are exploring the astonishing tale of the 1966 quarter-dollar coin that collectors now claim could command as much as $83 million due to a combination of rare errors, extraordinary minting anomalies, unique historical circumstances, and possibilities that make this one ordinary-looking coin an object of obsession for treasure hunters around the world. And as we walk through this story together, you'll understand how a year like 1966, which at first glance seems routine in American coinage, could actually be the source of one of the most valuable accidental masterpieces ever produced by the United States Mint. So get comfortable as we explore the layered reasons behind its rumored value, the distinct physical and technical traits that set it apart, the historical context behind its creation, the confusing minting situation of the mid-1960s, and why the rare surviving examples that combine certain features are chased with intensity by collectors willing to pay astronomical prices for the privilege of owning something so unusual. So let's begin by going back to 1966, a year trapped in the chaotic aftermath of the great coin shortage of the early 1960s, which forced the government to remove mint marks, simplify production, and push coins through presses at unprecedented speeds just to keep circulation supplied. And that accelerated environment created the perfect storm for minting errors, because dies wore out faster, planchets were not always uniform, machines jammed, new technologies for layered metal composition were still being refined, and quality control officers simply could not catch every mistake before coins were released, meaning that 1966 quarters are unusually rich in potential anomalies ranging from doubled dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, transitional composition mistakes, improperly annealed surfaces, dramatic misalignments, struck-through debris flaws, and even extremely rare specimens with multiple overlapping errors that amplify their value tremendously. But what makes the lore of the $83 million 1966 quarter so powerful is the claim that there may exist one or two examples showing a near-impossible combination of mistakes not known to appear together in any other year of the Washington quarter series, beginning with an extraordinary double die obverse so dramatic that collectors say the letters of Liberty, the date, and even Washington's profile exhibit shadow-like outlines as if the die struck twice but shifted ever so slightly between impressions. And this kind of doubling, when bold, can already raise a coin's value into the tens of thousands. But the story does not stop there, because the same rumored specimen is believed to show signs of a misaligned die strike, where the obverse and reverse designs do not perfectly match up, causing the legendary eagle on the reverse to sit slightly off-center in a way that indicates mechanical failure rather than post-mint damage. And when you combine misalignment with doubled dies, collectors start to look very closely, since it means the coin was struck under extreme stress conditions at the mint. But even that is not the full story, because people speculate that the legendary quarter may have been struck on a leftover silver planchet or a foreign coin blank accidentally fed into the hopper, which would make it a transitional error, an incredibly rare type of mistake that skyrockets value since the coin would have a distinct ring, weight, edge coloration, and internal metal composition inconsistent with the standard clad coins introduced after 1965. And while 1966 quarters were supposed to be fully copper-nickel clad, it is historically documented that odd planchets from previous years occasionally slipped into presses, especially during busy production cycles, so the possibility of a silver-based or improperly layered planchet cannot be ruled out, and this alone could send value into the millions. But when combined with the other errors mentioned, it becomes the perfect storm for an unprecedented auction outcome. Yet there's more. Some experts believe that certain surviving examples may show evidence of a struck-through grease error, where parts of the design are faint or missing because grease or debris obscured portions of the die face, creating an eerie ghost-like look in the lettering or Washington's hair, something that adds uniqueness because no two struck-through errors look exactly the same, and collectors cherish that individuality. But then there is also talk of a partial collar strike, where the rim does not form correctly, leaving a distinctive slope or weakness on one side, a type of error extremely rare to occur simultaneously with doubling, misalignment, wrong planchet, and struck-through issues. But the theorized super-rare specimen reportedly displays hints of all these features together, making it a once-in-human-history combination of mechanical failure and metallurgical anomaly. And when you consider how few coins like this would ever escape into circulation, The possibility of a surviving example makes collectors frantic, imagining that a single lucky find could instantly place them among the wealthiest private coin owners in the world, so the speculation of an $83 million value stems not just from the rarity but also from auction psychology, where extreme competition between elite collectors, institutions, and wealthy investors drives prices far beyond conventional estimates, especially if the coin is certified in high grade by top grading agencies who consider dramatic, multi-layered mint errors as profoundly significant pieces of American numismatic history. And beyond all this technical analysis lies something even more mysterious. The year 1966 lacked mint marks because of the government's temporary policy during the coin shortage era, meaning that collectors cannot easily identify where certain errors originated, making provenance harder to trace and increasing the allure of unknown origins, almost like a treasure map without labels, and the anonymity of mint origin adds to the mystique, making any unusually flawed 1966 quarter feel like a secret survivor of an era when chaos ruled coin production. But what amplifies the legend further is that many 1,966 coins were hoarded, spent, or melted over decades, shrinking the population dramatically and increasing the odds that a surviving error coin is sitting unnoticed in old jars, desk drawers, inherited collections, or even circulation today, waiting for someone with a sharp eye to identify unusual features like doubling in the date, irregular rims, weight deviations, strange coloration on the surface, inconsistent strike depth, or mismatched alignment between obverse and reverse. And because mint errors of this magnitude are so specific, collectors often debate endlessly about which combinations would justify such a colossal valuation. And while some doubt the possibility, the numismatic world has seen stranger things, like coins once believed worthless suddenly selling for millions when rediscovered in pristine condition with unexpected flaws, and the 1966 quarter stands at the center of this excitement because it embodies uncertainty, rarity, and the potential of hidden value in a way that no modern coin does. And as we imagine the scenario that a specimen exists with multiple overlapping errors, exaggerated doubling, misaligned dies, wrong planchet metal, weak rims, partial collar formation, and struck-through debris patterns, it becomes clearer why dedicated collectors, historians, and investors might view it as priceless, a real-world example of how chaos inside the mint can accidentally create a masterpiece of mechanical unpredictability. And when you add the cultural weight of Washington quarters being beloved symbols of American currency, the potential for astronomical bidding wars becomes even greater, because owning such a coin would not just be about its error combination but about possessing a singular artifact. From an era of frantic production, national coin shortages, and transitional technology, a true survivor from a turbulent chapter in minting history, and this narrative, this fusion of factual errors, theoretical possibilities, historical context, and modern obsession, fuels the belief that somewhere, in someone's possession, maybe tucked away and unnoticed, there could be a 1966 quarter worth $83 million, and that possibility alone is enough to keep collectors searching. Examining every detail under magnification, weighing suspect coins, listening for the ring of silver, checking rims for anomalies, comparing letters for doubling, and looking for the slightest sign that fate has placed a fortune in their hands. And as we explore this concept together, we realize that beyond the technical specifics and mechanical details lies a powerful message about value, rarity, and the thrill of the hunt. Because while most coins minted in 1966 are perfectly ordinary, the tiny chance that one extraordinary mistake slipped through the cracks transforms the entire series into a treasure field waiting to be explored. So as you continue watching and learning, remember that the world of rare coins is full of shock, wonder, and unexpected discoveries, and maybe one day you'll be the person to find the legendary multi-million-dollar quarter sitting quietly in your change jar, proving once again that history has a funny way of hiding its greatest treasures in plain sight. Next. Now we dive into one of the most surprising, fascinating, and unbelievable stories in the world of rare coins, a story that begins with a simple piece of pocket change that most people have handled countless times without ever giving it a second thought. Yet this particular coin from 1967 has gained a reputation for being worth an eye-popping $65 million because of a combination of mysterious errors, unexpected minting mistakes, and the astonishing possibilities that arise when something so ordinary reveals layers of hidden rarity. And today we will unfold this entire tale in one massive journey through history, minting technology, collector psychology, error identification, and the strange quirks of the United States Mint during the late 1960s, all in one continuous flow so that you can immerse yourself entirely in the story of the 1967 quarter dollar and why some collectors believe certain examples of it could reach values in the tens of millions, beginning with the Context in which the coin was created. Because 1967 was a chaotic time in American coinage history as the United States Mint was still struggling with the aftermath of the great coin shortage of the early 1960s, a shortage so intense that hoarding, silver speculation and massive demand had forced the government to change metal compositions, alter minting procedures and even temporarily remove mint marks from all circulating coins in an attempt to discourage collectors from grabbing every new piece of currency that came into circulation. So the 1967 quarter, like the 1965 and 1966 issues, was produced without a mint mark, creating the unusual situation in which coins made in Philadelphia, Denver, and even San Francisco looked identical on the surface, and while that might seem like just a minor historical detail, it sets the stage for the possibility of minting overlaps, planchet mix-ups, and undocumented experimental strikes that contribute to the idea that certain 1967 quarters could be far more unusual than anyone originally realized, because when mint marks disappear and production pressures skyrocket, errors become not only possible but likely, and the sheer volume of coins being produced meant that quality control sometimes took a back seat, leading to mistakes that, in today's collector market, can transform a 25-cent coin into something that sparks wild bidding wars, intense speculation, and staggering estimates that climb into the millions. So when we talk about a 1967 quarter supposedly worth $65 million, we're not claiming that every single one from that year is worth even a fraction of that amount, but rather that certain extremely rare and extremely unusual era coins have such powerful mystique and such extreme potential rarity that their estimated value skyrockets into a realm that seems impossible until you start examining the specific factors that make them so shockingly special, beginning with one of the most famous types of minting anomalies, the wrong planchet strike, which can occur when a blank intended for a different denomination accidentally gets fed into the presses used for quarters, something that may sound unlikely until you remember that in the mid-1960s the mints were churning out billions of coins across multiple denominations with overlapping materials, meaning it was entirely possible for a 1967 quarter to be struck on a nickel planchet, a dime planchet or even a leftover silver planchet. From 1964, and the mere idea that a handful of 1967 quarters might have been struck on silver planchets left over from the transition period is one of the reasons collectors still get excited whenever an unusual example from that year surfaces, because a genuine silver planchet error from 1967 would be not only historically important but astronomically valuable due to its rarity, and even though official records insist that no silver planchets should have been present by that time, we know from other documented examples across different years that leftover planchets sometimes remained in the machinery, hiding beneath feeders or lodged behind metal guides, only to fall into place unexpectedly months or even years later, creating error coins that were never intended to exist at all. And because these accidental relics are so scarce, the speculation surrounding their potential value tends to reach stratospheric levels, especially when combined with other dramatic minting mistakes, such as double strikes, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die clashes, rim cuds, retained cuds and rotating dies, all of which can transform an ordinary quarter into something visually stunning, structurally bizarre, and unbelievably attractive to high-end collectors, who often pay enormous premiums for errors that demonstrate extreme or unusual characteristics. And speaking of extreme characteristics, one of the most talked about possibilities with the 1967 quarter involves the concept of a die trial strike, which refers to coins struck using special test dies, experimental hubs or early-stage prototypes that differ in subtle ways from the final production design. And because the United States Mint during the Coinage Act transition period was constantly adjusting metallic compositions, relief heights, die pressure, and strike quality, there's long-standing speculation that experimental dies may have been used briefly during 1967 production runs, producing coins with slightly different profiles, varying depths in Washington's portrait or unusual texturing on the reverse. And although such coins would have been intended for destruction, history has repeatedly shown that die trial pieces sometimes escape into circulation, either through oversight or accidental distribution, and the possibility of one being discovered decades later in pristine condition is enough to send collectors into a frenzy, because the uniqueness of such an experimental strike could easily push its theoretical auction value into the tens of millions, especially in today's collector market where wealthy buyers eagerly compete for one-of-a-kind pieces. And this brings us to another essential point about why the 1967 quarter has taken on such mythical value. The modern coin market loves dramatic stories, and nothing excites collectors more than the possibility of an extremely rare, extremely unusual error that exists in numbers so small that only one or two might ever be found. And when you Combine the high-pressure minting environment of 1967 with the elimination of mint marks and the wide variety of known errors from surrounding years, the speculation surrounding what might still exist becomes irresistible, and some examples already discovered include off-metal strikes that weigh noticeably less or more than a standard clad quarter, pieces with doubled lettering on Liberty or I in God We Trust, coins missing portions of their reading due to collar malfunctions, and even reverse dies featuring clashes so dramatic that outlines of Washington's profile appear ghost-like on the back of the coin, creating eerie and beautiful patterns that make these quarters instantly valuable. And then there are the ultra-rare rumors of proof-like or experimental finish 1967 quarters, even though no official proof sets were issued for that year. But the San Francisco assay office still conducted various experimental strikings, so the possibility that a few test strikes made with unusually polished dies could have escaped into circulation remains one of the most tantalizing mysteries for collectors, because an unlisted proof finish 1967 quarter would represent an extraordinary minting anomaly, and anomalies in the world of rare coins are the heartbeat of multimillion-dollar valuations. And when collectors imagine a coin that not only has the mysterious background of a transitional era but also reflects multiple layers of error, history, experimentation, and scarcity, they begin to assign value not just based on the physical object but on the story behind it, the aura surrounding it, the improbability of its existence, and the emotional thrill of owning something no one else might ever possess. And that is exactly how we arrive at the possibility, however extreme, of a 1967 quarter commanding a value of $65 million, because in the high-stakes world of numismatics, the rarest coins are not just pieces of metal, they are artifacts, treasures, symbols of survival, and representations of moments in history when the mint was operating under extraordinary conditions, and the 1967 era was one of the most extraordinary of all, a period marked by transition, experimentation, shortage, pressure, and change, and those turbulent conditions created the perfect environment for stunning errors that collectors today would pay astronomical sums to own, especially if a coin emerges with multiple layers of rarity, such as a misplanched strike combined with a double die combined with a minting test finish. And because no one knows exactly how many such coins may have escaped detection, the legend continues to grow, fueled by every new discovery of a previously unknown variety, every auction where an error coin sets a new record, and every story of someone finding a fortune in pocket change, reinforcing the belief that treasures still circulate among us disguised as ordinary coins. And for viewers who love the thrill of mystery, rarity, and the possibility of uncovering life-changing wealth in everyday items, the story of the 1967 quarter remains one of the most compelling examples of how the smallest objects can hold the greatest surprises. So if you're intrigued by the hidden world of minting errors, rare strikes, transitional anomalies, and the endless possibilities contained in a handful of change, make sure to stay tuned, keep exploring. Now we dive into one of the most surprising and captivating stories in the entire world of rare coins, a story that begins with something as ordinary as a pocket change discovery but transforms into a jaw-dropping revelation that a simple 1990 $quarter coin, a coin millions of Americans once handled without a second thought, could in extremely rare circumstances be worth an astonishing $23 million, a value fueled by a combination of minting mistakes, elusive errors, dramatic production anomalies, and mysterious possibilities that collectors believe push this coin into the realm of once-in-a-lifetime treasures. And as we explore the reasons behind this extraordinary value, we will unravel how various forms of imperfections on the 1990 quarter have become the secret ingredients that convert a routine Denver-minted coin into a multimillion-dollar piece of numismatic history, because the story of this coin takes us deep into the inner workings of the United States Mint during the early 1990s, a time when technology, demand, and production speed all clashed in a way that created unexpected and sometimes spectacular errors that slipped past inspectors and into circulation, making every surviving mistake coin from that year a magnet for treasure hunters, collectors, historians, and investors who dream of finding one of the few known examples of these extraordinary minting mishaps that amplify the coin's value far beyond the imagination of the average person whose hands these coins once passed through. And when we start unraveling the potential errors that make a 1990 quarter so valuable, we quickly encounter the dramatic world of off-center strikes, where the coin blank fails to align properly within the striking chamber, resulting in a design that is shifted, incomplete, or visibly misaligned in a way that makes experts instantly recognize its rarity. And depending on how extreme the off-center strike is, whether it is a subtle 5 percent shift or an extreme 50% off-center design missing large portions of Washington's portrait or the eagle on the reverse. These mistakes can catapult the coin from a curiosity to a multi-million-dollar anomaly, especially when the date and mint mark remain fully visible, because visibility and clarity of those key identifying details are what give collectors confidence in the coin's authenticity and therefore inflate its desirability to nearly mythical levels. And as we continue digging into the world of mint errors that affect the 1990 D quarter, we also come across the fascinating category of double strikes, errors that occur when the coin is struck more than once, leaving ghostly overlapping images, echoed outlines, or misplaced features that make the coin appear almost surreal. And it is these double strikes, especially those where the second strike happens out of collar so that it creates an expanded, distorted, or stretched rim, that have been known to command life-changing prices because they offer a glimpse into a split-second mechanical mishap during the minting process, a moment where something went wrong in a way that should have been caught, corrected, or destroyed, yet wasn't, allowing the coin to escape into circulation and hide among millions of ordinary examples, its true value lying dormant until someone with knowledge, curiosity, or sheer luck recognized its phenomenal significance. And beyond double strikes, one of the most compelling reasons a 1990 D quarter could be worth $23 million lies in transitional errors, situations where the wrong metal composition is accidentally used. So instead of being struck on the typical copper-nickel clad planchet used for modern quarters, a rare 1990 D quarter could have been struck on a leftover silver planchet, a foreign coin blank, or even a planchet intended for another denomination such as a nickel or dime. And when this happens, the coin becomes an anomaly that defies expectations, carrying a weight, color, or sound different from any regular quarter, creating a unique fingerprint of rarity that collectors chase with unrelenting passion. And when authenticated by experts, these transitional errors can command astronomical prices because they represent mistakes so rare that only a handful might exist worldwide, making each one something of a numismatic miracle that challenges our understanding of mint protocols, quality control, and historical record keeping. And the 1990 D quarter has become legendary among treasure hunters because of the widely whispered possibility that a few extremely rare broad-struck examples, coins flattened outward beyond the normal rim without the collar in place, may have been struck at the Denver Mint and somehow escaped destruction, leaving behind mysterious survivors that showcase expanded edges, distorted lettering, and enlarged designs that instantly set them apart from normal coins. And these broad-struck errors, when combined with other smaller anomalies such as die cracks, rim cuds, or misaligned dies, can create a once-in-history specimen that collectors believe could easily reach $23 million at auction if discovered in pristine condition. And speaking of die cracks and cuds, the 1990 D quarter is known among specialists for having some fascinating die deterioration patterns, with cracks occasionally forming lines across Washington's portrait or the eagle's wings. And in some cases, pieces of the die may break away entirely, leaving behind raised blobs of metal on the coin's surface known as cuds. And while minor die cracks are common and not especially valuable, extremely large or dramatic ones, especially those that affect major design features, can elevate the coin's desirability because they represent a coin struck during the final moments of a failing die, moments that produced a unique version of the quarter that exists in extremely limited numbers, and therefore carries collector intrigue that grows with each passing decade. And when you combine the major errors, the off-center strikes, double strikes, wrong planchet transitions, broad strikes, dramatic die cracks, and cuds, with the smaller, subtle anomalies such as rotated dies, clipped planchets, weak strikes, re-engraved mint marks, filled dies that remove parts of letters, or improperly annealed planchets that change the color and texture of the coin, you begin to understand how a journalist, collector, or auctioneer might confidently claim that the perfect combination of these errors, preserved on a single extraordinary 1990 D quarter, could justify an appraisal as high as $23 million, not because the metal itself carries that value, but because the story, the mistake, the rarity, the anomaly, and the sheer improbability of such a coin surviving in high grade ignite a frenzy among elite collectors who would compete at the highest levels to secure a specimen that encapsulates the unpredictable beauty of minting history. And the reason stories like this captivate the public so deeply is because they tap into the irresistible fantasy that unimaginable fortune might be hiding in plain sight, a fantasy grounded in real historical events where rare error coins, such as off-metal cents, double dies, and mule coins, have sold for staggering prices at auction, inspiring people everywhere to examine their pocket change closely, hoping to discover that one miraculous coin that defies the odds. And for the 1990 D quarter, This fantasy becomes especially powerful because so many different types of errors were possible during that era, and collectors practice the long-held belief that at least one or two extraordinary examples from 1990 may still be sitting in a forgotten jar, an inherited collection, or a random drawer where it has been waiting for decades to be recognized as the multimillion-dollar treasure it truly is. And when we consider the passionate coin community that thrives on rarity, historical significance, and the thrill of discovery, it becomes easier to understand how a legendary 1990 D-quarter, complete with dramatic, eye-catching errors and flawless preservation, could become the centerpiece of an elite collection, attracting attention from wealthy private buyers, museums, investors, and historians who understand that its value is not only monetary but also symbolic, representing the unpredictable nature of history, the fallibility of even the most precise machinery, and the wondrous possibility that everyday objects can carry stories far greater than their appearance. And so the tale of the $23 million 1990 D-quarter endures as a reminder that hidden treasures still exist, that mistakes can become masterpieces, and that the next person to discover one of these extraordinary coins could be anyone watching this video right now. So always keep your eyes open, always check your change, always stay curious, and before you go, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss the stories, mysteries, and discoveries that could change your life forever.